I walked into the clinic that morning with my hands resting gently over my stomach, smiling at a future I believed was safe. I was 23 years old, newly married, carrying my first child. Everything in my life felt fragile but hopeful, like glass catching sunlight. My husband had dropped me off at the entrance, kissed my forehead, and said, "Call me when you hear the heartbeat." I watched him drive away, never imagining that those were the last loving words I would ever hear from him. The waiting room smelled like antiseptic and warm coffee. Other women sat beside me, some alone, some holding hands with their partners. I felt proud. Chosen. Blessed. I kept touching my belly, whispering promises to the life growing inside me. When the nurse called my name, my heart raced with excitement. The ultrasound room was dim, calm, almost sacred. The doctor smiled politely as she prepared the machine. I lay down, my shirt lifted, cold gel spreading across my skin. I stared at the ceiling, waiting for joy. Then the room changed. The doctor leaned closer to the screen. Her smile faded. She adjusted the monitor, then adjusted it again. Her breathing slowed, then stopped for a moment. I noticed her hand trembling. "Is everything okay?" I asked softly, suddenly afraid of my own voice. She didn't answer. She stared at the screen longer than felt normal. The silence grew heavy, pressing on my chest. I tried to sit up, but she gently placed her hand on my shoulder. "Please, stay still," she said, her voice tight. My heart began to pound. I had imagined this moment 100 times, tears of joy, laughter, maybe even hearing a heartbeat. Not this quiet panic. After what felt like an eternity, she turned off the screen. "I need you to get dressed," she said quickly. Fear rushed through me. "Is my baby okay?" She swallowed hard. "Please. Get dressed." In the hallway, away from nurses and patients, she pulled me aside. Her grip was firm, almost desperate. I had never seen a doctor look afraid of the truth. "You need to leave," she whispered. "And you need to get a divorce." I laughed out of shock. "What? Why would you say that?" Her eyes filled with tears. She glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "There's no time to explain," she said urgently. "If I tell you here, it could get complicated. But you're not safe in that marriage." My knees felt weak. "Please, just tell me why." She nodded once, like she had made a painful decision. "You'll understand when you see this." She led me back into the room and turned the screen toward me. The image flickered to life. And in that moment, the life I trusted, my marriage, my family, my future, began to shatter in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. At first, the image on the screen meant nothing to me. I stared at it, waiting for joy to catch up with confusion. Gray shapes floated against a dark background, pulsing softly. I searched for the moment everyone talks about, the instant when love hits you all at once. Instead, I felt cold. "I don't understand," I whispered. The doctor didn't rush me. She pointed gently at the screen, her finger steady even though her face wasn't. "There are 2 embryos," she said carefully. I blinked. "Twins?" Her silence answered before her words did. "No," she said. "They're not the same age." The room tilted. "What does that mean?" She took a breath, the kind someone takes before delivering a sentence that changes a life. "One embryo is consistent with your dates. The other is older. By several weeks." My heart began to race. Biology lessons I barely remembered came rushing back. I shook my head, refusing the logic forming in my mind. "That's not possible," I said. "I've only been pregnant once." She looked at me with pity so deep it felt like another wound. "It is possible," she said softly. "But not in the way you're thinking." My hands curled into fists. "Explain." She turned the screen off and sat beside me. "Your husband has been involved in another pregnancy." The words landed quietly, but the damage was loud. "No," I whispered. "He wouldn't." She hesitated, then continued. The second embryo matches records from another patient. Same genetic markers. Same last name. My ears rang. Last name? She nodded. Your sister-in-law. The air left my lungs. I felt like I was drowning on dry land. My body shook, but my mind went eerily calm, like it was protecting me from breaking apart completely. She explained everything slowly. The overlapping timelines. The medical records. The reason she couldn't say more without risking her job. She wasn't supposed to warn me, but she couldn't stay silent. They were planning something, she said. I don't know exactly what, but I know this wasn't a mistake. I thought of family dinners. Of smiles across the table. Of my sister-in-law touching my belly, asking questions, offering advice. I remembered the way my husband always answered for me. The way he watched the room, not me. Suddenly, every strange moment made sense. The secret phone calls. The financial pressure. His sudden interest in my inheritance from my late father. I stood up on legs that barely worked. So my baby, I whispered. Your baby is yours, the doctor said quickly. And healthy. But you are being lied to. I walked out of the clinic numb, the ultrasound photo clutched in my hand like evidence of a crime I never agreed to be part of. I sat in my car and called my husband. Did you hear the heartbeat? He asked cheerfully. I stared at the picture again, my hands shaking. Yes, I said calmly. But inside, my marriage was already dead. I didn't confront him. That was the first decision I made after the truth tried to destroy me. I went home that evening, smiled when he opened the door, and asked him how his day was. He talked about work, about traffic, about things that suddenly felt meaningless. I nodded, cooked dinner, and listened like a woman who still believed. Inside, my chest burned. That night, while he slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and cried silently. I pressed my hand against my mouth so no sound escaped. Every tear felt like grief, not just for my marriage, but for the version of myself who had trusted so completely. In the days that followed, I learned how to act normal while breaking inside. I attended family gatherings. I let my sister-in-law hug me. I watched her eyes linger on my stomach, and I wondered how long she had been living in my life without my permission. I memorized her expressions. I listened more than I spoke. Silence became my shield. At first, I was just surviving. But slowly, survival turned into awareness. I started noticing patterns I had ignored before. The way my husband controlled conversations when money came up. How he dismissed my questions about finances. How he once suggested putting my father's inheritance into a joint account for the baby's future. I said yes. Then I quietly said no. I opened a separate account in my name alone. I spoke to a lawyer under the excuse of estate planning. I saved copies of bank statements, text messages, and medical appointments. I learned the difference between reacting emotionally and moving intelligently. Some nights, the pain crushed me. I mourned the life I thought I was building. I mourned the love I believed in. I mourned the girl who thought loyalty was guaranteed if you gave enough of yourself. Pregnancy made everything heavier. Hormones amplified my fear, my sadness, my anger. But it also sharpened my instinct. I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was protecting my child. And something inside me shifted. I stopped begging the universe for answers. I stopped asking why. Instead, I asked how. How do I leave safely? How do I make sure they can't rewrite my story? How do I walk away without becoming bitter? I read. I listened. I planned. My husband mistook my calm for ignorance. He mistook my silence for weakness. He didn't see the woman waking up behind my eyes. Each day, I felt stronger. Smarter. More aware of my worth. I realized something important: they didn't break me. They revealed me. By the time I finished gathering everything I needed, I was no longer afraid of losing my marriage. I was afraid of staying in a lie. And I promised myself one thing. When I finally spoke, it wouldn't be through tears. It would be through truth. By the time I was ready to act, I no longer wanted revenge fueled by anger. I wanted justice wrapped in calm. I planned everything quietly, patiently, like someone who finally understood that power doesn't shout, it waits. Our first wedding anniversary was approaching, and my husband insisted we host a small family dinner. He said it would be symbolic. I smiled and agreed. He didn't realize he had just handed me the perfect stage. That morning, I woke up peaceful. I dressed carefully, choosing a soft dress that hid my shaking hands and highlighted my growing belly. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at me, not because she was broken, but because she was steady. The table was set. Candles lit. Everyone arrived smiling, laughing, unaware they were stepping into truth. My sister-in-law hugged me longer than usual. My husband kissed my cheek. I felt nothing. Halfway through dinner, I stood up, glass in hand. I just want to say something, I began, my voice calm. This year taught me a lot about love, family, and honesty. They nodded, relaxed. I handed out envelopes. My husband frowned. His sister froze. Inside were printed messages, bank records, medical timelines, and a summary from my lawyer. Proof of the affair. Proof of the financial manipulation. Proof that they had planned to use my pregnancy and my inheritance as tools. The room went silent. My husband stuttered. His family whispered. My sister-in-law cried. I looked at him and said quietly, I know everything. And I forgive myself for trusting you. Then I placed the final envelope on the table. Divorce papers. I've already filed, I added. And I've already protected my assets. You'll hear from my lawyer. I picked up my coat. No screaming. No chaos. Just truth. In the weeks that followed, karma worked faster than I expected. His workplace found out. He lost his position. His family turned cold. Trust evaporated. The affair didn't survive exposure, it never does. As for me, I left with my dignity intact. I moved closer to people who loved me without conditions. I raised my child surrounded by honesty, not secrets. I went to therapy. I healed. I learned that self-respect is louder than revenge. Sometimes I look back and feel gratitude. That ultrasound didn't just show me my baby. It showed me who needed to be removed from my life. I didn't win because they lost. I won because I chose myself. And that was the sweetest revenge of all.